let's get started. So we are talking about selling. This is going to be part 2. I'm probably going to do about 3 or 4 more parts to this. So it's going to be pretty extensive when it comes to how to sell and what all's going on. And I want to dive down deep. A lot of this stuff is going to be one of those things that it's more caught than taught. So you're going to have to get out there in the field and actually practice this a little bit for some of the things that I'm saying are starting to make sense. If you ever want somebody to watch you sell or help you sell, guys, by all means, please reach out. I can go on listing appointments with you. I can go walk a few houses with you, whatever it is, because sometimes that real-time evaluation is going to be really important. I always joke, being a teacher, that there's 3 barriers that stop people from learning something. And the first barrier is a misunderstood word or symbol. Okay, that's the first barrier. And what I'm working on today is making sure we understand all the words and the cycle and what's going on. The second one is too steep of a gradient. Basically, you're trying to do algebra before you can add and subtract really well. And then the third one is lack of mass, which means sometimes you need to touch something. And my best example for that is you can read all the books you want about how to be a good swimmer, but you're never going to get it till you get in the water. You got to touch, feel, experience, and do something before you truly master it, before you truly understand. But today we're going to be talking a lot. There's going to be some teaching. You're going to have to go out in the field to catch this. And I'm really, I love talking about sales. So if you have any questions about it, guys, do not hesitate, because it's what we do. It is 100% what we do. And I love teaching it because it's so misunderstood, and so many people do this wrong and incorrectly. And then they say sales is hard, or salespeople are bad, or I can't be in sales. Guys, I've been in sales for the last, I can't even think now, 12, 13 years. And I'm still alive. I still have friends. My friends and family still talk to me, and I absolutely love it. So we talked about that in the last video. Today, we're going to dive a little bit in, just as a kind of a little bit of a refresher. We're going to be talking about the sales cycle. And why isn't my thing responding to me? Yep, there we go. So the first part of the sales cycle, guys, is going to be prospecting. That is going out and finding the person that you're going to sell to, very simply put. The second part of the sales cycle is establishing rapport and initiating contact. Then we identify needs, we present an offer, we manage objections, and then we close. We're actually going to be talking about the first 2 in here, because I think it's going to be quick enough for us to knock this out in just one meeting. But both of them are very important, and they're very, very different. A lot of people think that they're going to kind of fall into the same one, but they're actually very, very different as we go through this. So the first one is prospecting. Okay, what is prospecting? Prospecting means finding a client. Ultimately, we're trying to serve a client. We need to find a client. Who are we going to work with? How do I pick one person to work with out of the 350 million people that live here in America? And whatever it is, 80, what are we at, 40 something million here in Texas? We can serve anybody here in Texas. We got to figure out of that 40 million who we're going to be working with. So, sorry, the UPS guy here, my dog's losing his mind, and there's people building a fence outside, so I can't put them outside. This has been a lot of fun. Okay, so prospecting. First thing as we go through prospecting, guys, is, I'm going to move this over here. There we go. And we're not back on my thing. Is you got to be in the right mindset before you prospect. You have to have 100% confidence in that you know what to do. The old joke, it's like you're like a dog chasing cars. What do you do when you catch one? Okay, a lot of people go out there and they get this weird analysis paralysis. They just freak out. And they're like, I can't go do this. Well, what if they ask me this? And what if they do? Guys, you just have to believe. And the one thing that I can tell you is, if you don't, well, I haven't done anything before. I don't have any experience. I don't know what I'm doing. There's 100 things that you can tell yourself you don't believe. But the one thing that you need to understand is that you can borrow credibility and you can borrow knowledge. We have, as the time of this thing, 40-something agents in White Line Realty. I promise you, somebody has done a transaction before. Somebody knows what they're doing. And if there's a hard question that comes up, or if something weird happens, there are 40-something people that you can reach out to and help. So borrow that information, borrow that confidence, and know that you're not out there on your own. I understand that you get in the car by yourself every day. And I understand you're probably sitting in your office by yourself right now, not having anybody else around you. But that doesn't mean you're alone, guys. So you've got to believe in what you're doing. You got to be 100% confident that you can help your client. And just by borrowing other people's knowledge, you're there. And if you have any real specific questions, that's what I'm here for, right? The second thing is marketing. So Our type of sales is a little bit different. If you're a car salesman, for example, people come onto a lot. They don't do a whole lot of prospecting outside of that. They tend to wait for their ads to bring people in, and that's your prospect, the person that walked on the lot. I love that line from Glenn Garrick and Ross where they're like, if they don't walk on the lot, then unless they want to buy something. Guys, we don't have that. People don't walk into my office and ask me to buy a house. Some people do reach out to me online, but that's due to marketing. Marketing's not really within the scope of this. I've done some videos on marketing, and we're going to be doing even more marketing. The people that were on the last call, they all got a book from me. Guys, and this is a great book about marketing, 7 levels of communication. We are going to be doing like a book club on this. So get this book. If you're listening to this, we're going to be doing a little book club thing kind of via Zoom. The seven levels of communication by Michael Maher, M-A-H-E-R. Get this book because it's going to talk about marketing. But what marketing is for our industry, for the real estate industry, is making sure that we are front of mind. When somebody decides to buy a house, we need to be front of mind with that person, and more than likely they're going to reach out to us when they're good and ready. There are ways that you can get prospects other than that. You know how to get the paid leads through things like OpCity. Again, I've talked about all this before. You can host open houses, either your properties or other people's properties. There's a lot of ways to get this, but you've got to have some sort of marketing that comes in. You've got to be out there. Even if your marketing is just doing social media, being involved in the community, talking about people, what you do, buying billboards, it doesn't matter. But marketing is a part of prospecting, especially in the real estate world. And you don't have to spend a lot of money to market, but you do have to be front of mind. When somebody makes the decision, when somebody's at home having dinner and they go, honey, I think it's time for us to move, who should we call? And that is on you. It is your job to be front of mind. It is your job to be inside of your sphere of influence. So that way you're the first person when they think real estate, they think of you. Okay. And there's a lot more videos on this, so watch those. The next thing about prospecting is you need to qualify your prospect. This is huge. This is huge, 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 huge. Do you know what their needs are? Do you know what's going on? Are they ready to buy? A lot of people might call you, and this is one of my first things that we do when I'm prospecting to find a particular client, is I need to qualify them. Do you just want to go look at houses because you got on a high from watching HGTV last night and you just want to go look at 20 houses and waste my time? No. Guys, you've got to qualify these people once they come in. And it's part of finding the right client. Are they ready to buy? Have they spoken to a loan originator? Have they done all the steps prior to what they need to do to qualify? I mean, they're not going to be a true prospect or a true client if they're not ready to buy. And it is your responsibility to take that mass of people that you talk to on a daily basis and make sure that you only spend time with the ones that are actually going to benefit you. So you gotta weed it out. You gotta ask the questions to make sure that they are ready to go and ready to make a decision without having to spend a lot of time doing it. I mean, if they're ready to go, let's go. And that's a part of prospecting as well, guys. And there's a lot of good questions you can ask, and we'll go over some of those later. But you want to make sure you do that. So when you're prospecting, don't waste your time. I can't tell you how many people I've heard showing 50 houses to somebody that has no intent to buy or hasn't been pre-qualified, or they just wanted to get ideas for their kitchen. Oh, we're going to do our kitchen. And I was online and I saw these 4 houses. Can you go take me to it? You know, I'd love to. That's not really what I do. You know what I mean? Have you heard of Pinterest? Let's open an account on there and let's get some ideas from that. Okay. Unless they're just a good friend and you like house hunting yourself. Sometimes I do that, especially here in my neighborhood. I just wander around a lot. And the last part about prospecting, guys, is following up. You have got to have a follow-up system, whatever works for you. We have the Chime CRM. So Chime is a great, CRM means a customer relationship manager. If you have access to that, if you pay for the access to it, that is a great way to do it. So one of the fun things about that is when somebody goes to the website, it captures their information and we send it out to the people that have Chime. So these are completely cold prospects. I have no idea if they really want to buy. I have no idea if they're just house hunting. I have no idea what they're doing, okay? But within Chime, it has follow-up sequences where it will email them. Ryan has a great bit about this, and I need to get Ryan on about this prospecting because he does fantastic with his follow-up. He will email these people once a month, but he doesn't actually email them. He utilizes the systems that we have in place. It's brilliant. I mean, if they've looked at a house, they might have a need, and he's going to continue to follow up with them. So he stays front of mind. So whenever they get ready to pull the trigger, they're like, who was that guy that emailed us 57 times over the last few years? It was Ryan. Let's find his email. Let's send it back. So follow-up is huge. I want to think right now, 6 clients that are looking to buy a house. Okay. I've gotten them pre-qualified. I've gotten them to do this, but I'd say 4 of them are not in a real big hurry. They just kind of want to look, and yes, they're ready to pull the trigger. So guys, I'm not going to spend 5 hours a day with those people. I'm going to make sure that I talk to them. I talk to them every couple of days. I make sure that they're still getting emails. I ask them what they like, what they don't like, so I can help dial this whole thing in, because I don't want to spend 6 weeks driving around in the car with them because they're just not really motivated or haven't found what they want. So follow-up is big, guys. Have a system for following up. If it's a CRM, great. If it's a spreadsheet, great. If it's a yellow notepad, great. I don't care how you do it, but you need to follow up. I love showing this statistic in all of my my doings whenever I teach sales. And it's 48% of salespeople never follow up with a prospect. Half of you, and this is across all industries. This comes from the national sales whatever thing. Half of the people do not follow up with their prospects. That's amazing to me. Somebody walks in, talks to you about something. That was a great conversation. Have a wonderful life. That you're never going to sell anything that way, guys. Number 2, 25% of salespeople make a second contact and then stop. 12% make 3, and only 10% of people make more than 3 contacts. But if you look at the following statistic, 2% of sales are made on the first, 3% of sales are made on the second contact, 5% on the third, 10% on the fourth, and 80% of sales are made on the 5th to 12th contact. If you want to sell a house, that means you should call people a minimum of 5 times to follow up in order to get a sale. If you're not doing that and you're frustrated, that's your own fault. Now you know. You've got to contact people at least 5 times. At least 5 times in order for them to make a sale, in order for them to talk to you, in order for you to do anything else. Guys, and there's a big difference between following up and being a nuisance. You got to be real careful about that. One of the things that I always like to tell everybody is be pleasantly persistent. Whenever you talk to them, you're not going to be like, hey, you ready to buy a house? Okay, never mind. Call me when you are, right? You don't want to be coarse or rude. You want to be happy. You want to be pleasant about it. And the other thing that a lot of people, oh, I don't know what to say. Look for something new. Look for something new. Bring new information to them, and it will make them happy. Okay, that gives you a reason for the call. There's a book called Blue Fishing. I can't remember who wrote it, but you got to read it. This guy is phenomenal at follow-up with people. And all it is, and we're going to talk about this on the established rapport thing, is he takes something he knows about the client and he keeps it all in this data bank in his head. And if he sees something he likes, then he tells them. So for example, I'm working with one couple. The husband's a truck driver. He wants a place to park his truck. Every time I see a house that has anything to do with it, I will take a picture and I'll send it to him. Hey, do you think this would be big enough for your truck? Something like this. It's just to let him know, hey, I'm thinking about you. I'm following up with you. I'm looking for you. And sometimes, guys, it doesn't even have to be that simple. Like during the established rapport, which will be the next section, if you find out something interesting about the people that you work with, like Eric, one of the things I did for Eric the other day is Eric likes to fish. He's a fly fisherman. He goes down the coast all the time and fishes. I was at a title company, and the ladies at the front made those special tumblers, you know, and they would customize them and all that stuff, like the Yeti. And they had one that was in the shape of a fishing lure. It looked exactly like a fishing lure. It was really cool. It was 20 bucks. And I was like, Eric would love that. He's probably the biggest fisherman I know. I bought it for 20 bucks. I gave it to Eric on a Tuesday, absolutely zero. And this was back before, you know, we had White Line together. And he was just like, man, I really appreciate that. Guys, find reasons to follow up with people that are new information, something fun, and it's something about them. Okay, and we're going to talk about how to find out those things about them. So going back to the sales cycle, We talked about prospecting, which is essentially marketing, funneling down, getting the people that are ready to buy and getting them in front of you. You need to spend the majority of your time with people that are ready to buy. Period. The end. Okay. I'm not saying you need to ignore everybody else, but you can't spend the majority of your time with them if they're not ready. The second part about this is initiating contact and establishing rapport. This is something that took me a while to get good at, but now I absolutely love doing this. Basically, what I'm doing is when I talk to somebody, how am I talking to them, my first contact with them, and how do I get to know these people? If you remember from the presentation last week, sales is about matching a product with somebody's need. It's not about shoving a product down somebody's throat, okay? It's about, hey, what do you need? Hey, I have it. Let's get together and make it work, okay? That's all it is. So during the established rapport part, this is where I feel like salespeople miss so much. Step 2. This is the one that everybody gets hung up on. And this is where sales tend to go south very quickly because you did not establish rapport correctly. Now, let's define this real quick. Establishing rapport does not mean becoming that person's best friend. It doesn't mean pulling the wool over their eyes. It doesn't mean tricking them. It doesn't mean making them like you. It doesn't mean anything like that. It means establishing open communication. That's what that means. Something, and you can do this in a couple of ways, but you got to be able to have an open and honest communication. And they can't do that unless they trust you, they know you, and you'll work, they know that you have common interest. And that's how you establish rapport. That's where we're trying to get to on this. So when you establish rapport, I've got 6 things that I like to think about whenever I'm doing this. The first one, guys, I'm starting again. You've got to be confident, not arrogant, not cocky, but confident, especially in the industry that we're in. People want to know they're working with somebody that knows what the flip they're doing. Okay. Again, you can borrow this confidence. You can borrow the information. You can borrow the knowledge if you're new, but you need to understand that you're confident. And I think we all know the difference between somebody who's confident and somebody who's arrogant. A calm confidence is always really big. And in a way that, guys, you just got to relax. Especially if you've never really talked to a client, you've never been in sales before. The first thing you do, guys, is you got to slow down. You got to breathe. Just be yourself. If you're introverted, that's fine. If you're extroverted, that's fine. It doesn't matter what kind of person you are. Just be natural, because if you try to change your personality, the other person will smell it every time. The other person will smell it every time. If you've ever sat down with me in a social setting, you will know that I am very honest, borderline crash. I'm kind of loud. I like to talk. I kind of like the limelight. That's just kind of my personality. And I've never deviated from that. When I go to sell, I am 100% Colin 100% of the time. Because like I said, people can smell it. And if they smell something's not going on right with you, that's an immediate deterrent from trusting you. Something's not right. And we've all been in that situation where you've talked to somebody and you're like, I don't trust this guy. And you don't know why. And 9 times out of 10, it's because they're trying to put on a show for you. Don't put on a show. Be who you are. Okay. And by the way, with the confidence, guys, like I said, it's okay to say you don't know something. I find that my clients really respect me when I say that. All you got to say, man, that is a great question. Can I look that up and get back to you? Because 90% of the questions you already know the answer to. You're worried about that 10%. And that 10% will come up 1 out of every 10 clients. And by that time, you'll be fine. But between now and then, guys, you have got to understand that it's okay to say you don't know. And that will help with your confidence, guys. I promise you, clients will respect you. Okay? Don't get into analysis paralysis. That's a big one in the confidence thing. Oh, I got to look I can't talk to him yet. I don't know. No, guys, just go talk. You're going to be fine. And like I said, guys, nobody asks the hard questions coming out the gate, right? Especially when you initiate contact. They're probably not going to ask you about the tax implications of rolling commercial properties into a multifamily property and when exactly. It's like, can I 1031? It's like, guys, nobody's going to ask you those questions coming out the gate. They want to get to know you. That's the first contact. That's what we're talking about right now. The second one is ask questions. Question asking is the backbone to selling. If you can learn how to ask effective questions, you will be an amazing salesperson. You will be an amazing realtor. During the established rapport question, there's two basic kinds of questions. There's closed-ended questions and open-ended questions. During the established rapport section, I want to use a lot of open-ended questions. Okay, here's a closed-ended question, for example. How old are you? 39. The end. You learned information, which is great, but it ends the conversation. We've all dealt with people before where you start asking them questions and they're doing everything they can to shut you off. Okay? They're doing everything they can to shut you off. And what they do is they answer with one word or one sentence and they're done. That is a closed-ended question. That's a perfect example. Okay? What is an open-ended question? Hey, why are you looking to move? That invites a story. Well, we've lived here for 15 years. We did this, we did that. You want to ask questions, especially during the rapport building section, that are very open-ended. My uncle, who was an amazing sales guy, and then he ended up being a president of this big steel conglomerate. And I remember I was talking to him about it one time, and you've heard this before, but it really stuck coming from him for some reason. He's like, God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. Ask the question, shut up and listen. More open-ended questions, guys. Be friendly. And the biggest thing about this is when somebody tells you something, when they tell you the story, when you ask a good open-ended question and you get them rattling on about whatever it is that's important to them, you need to embrace their position. You need to listen to what they're saying. Do not wait for your turn to talk. You need to be paying 100% attention, and you need to be really, really big on that. And that brings me into the second one, is find something shared. If you are listening intently, not waiting for your turn to talk, you will find something that you and that person have in common. And it's okay to talk about that. Guys, that is the number one thing. I don't care who you are. People want to do business with somebody that has a shared experience. They want to know that you understand where they're coming from. This is not a trick. This is not neuro-linguistic programming. This is none of that. This is literally how you have a conversation with somebody. Okay? I have a good example at the end, which my wife hates sharing, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to save it at the end, though. So you're going to find something shared. Guys, it is okay during this process to get personal with somebody, as long as you're comfortable with that personal information, okay? I do it all the time. When I was doing sales for the schools, I would go into all these schools. I had to go, I don't know what it was, 300 and something schools. And I was in and out of schools all day long, every day. And guys, I would share just about anything with people. I would talk to them about what was going on. So if you're asking effective questions, you're going to find something. Hey, why are you looking to move? I asked this question at the house the other day. The lady told me, she goes, well, I've always worked from home. We've got 2 boys. They're now 14 and 17. One of them's about to leave. They're both into a lot of sports. With this whole COVID thing lately, my husband had to move back and he had to start working from home. So now we've got 2 people working from home, a dog and 2 boys that are into sports. They're like, we just need more space. I found something shared. She has a dog. I have a dog. We can talk about dogs. She's got 2 kids. I've got 2 kids. We can talk about kids. Oh my God, 17 and they play sports. What sports do they play? I used to play football. Do they play football? Guys, there's a million things. Like, oh, what sports do they play? Oh, he plays football. And I was like, let me guess. And then you can crack your jokes. You can talk about things. But find something shared by asking the right questions. So guys, and all these questions lead into one to another. Why are you looking to move? I told you all the reasons. Oh, okay, how big is your house right now? Oh, it's 1,500 square feet. How big were you looking? No, we want 2,000 square feet or more. Do you need an extra office? Do you think that would be helpful? Guys, I'm getting all of this information by listening to their stories. People like to talk about themselves. Believe it or not, a lot of people say, I don't like talking about myself. Yes, you do. But you need to make sure, the reason why you don't like talking about yourself is because the people you've probably talked to weren't listening. And that violates it discredits who you are. What's up? Yeah, guys, it discredits who you are when somebody doesn't listen to you. It drives you crazy. It's something that I have to work on all the time, is being present, listening, focusing, doing all that stuff. Jess is on here. I know she knows I have a hard time really focusing, getting into something, but when we're talking and having stories, I know she also understands that I get where she's coming from, and that we have shared experiences and we do all this stuff. It's not a trick, guys. It's how you communicate with somebody. It's how you gain trust with somebody. So if you can't focus, if you can't pay attention, put the phone down, get rid of it. If you can't do that, whatever it is, guys, find something shared, move forward, and appreciate what they're doing. This one is huge, guys. The easiest way to do this is to agree with them. It doesn't mean that you have to like change your political affiliation or change your religion. All you have to say is something like, I completely understand. I can appreciate that. I can appreciate needing a bigger house. Whatever it might be, guys, you need to make sure that you completely embrace their position. You need to get into their mindset to understand what they're looking for. I have a client right now. This is a little bit more advanced selling. We won't get into this so much, but I really talked to her for a long time about what kind of house she's looking for, because she wants one of those like 1970s kind of ugly. She squeals every time I show her a house that has like a yellow bathroom. And y'all know what I'm talking about if you've ever seen one. The yellow bathtub, yellow top, she squeals with that. And then she also gets really excited when there's a laundry hamper, okay? There's something going on there, and I can appreciate that, okay? After talking to her for a while, it was because it was her grandparents' house that looked like that. And she had fond memories with that. She likes the way that all these houses are built very different. They have good bones. They have all this stuff. It's unusual to find somebody who wants a house that was built in 1970 and not updated since 1970. That's unusual. So I need to appreciate it. I need to understand it. And now when I'm looking for houses, all the brand new homes that are being built, skip. She used a great word for them. She goes, they feel so sterile. I was like, that's a great word. Okay. I can appreciate where you're coming from now. I understand that now I'm not wasting my time or hers. I'm not sending her houses that look like, I mean, I set the search parameters. I want a house built from 1965 to 1985, period, the end. Because I know that's what she wants, guys. And I did all this during establishing rapport, and I was paying attention, and I can appreciate where she's coming from. Guys, listen to understand. I've touched on this a lot, but I've got to take a minute to just really drive this point home. It is not your turn to talk. All right, do some exercises on this. Try for a minute. Try having dinner tonight at the dinner table and ask somebody a question and follow it up with another question. Don't be a 3-year-old and go, why? Don't do that. But pay attention to the story and figure out what's going on. This morning at breakfast, I'm sitting down. I have my 7-year-old daughter. Or no, sorry, it was dinner last night. And I like to ask 2 questions. Both of them open-ended questions. Because if you ask, how was school today? The answer is fine. That's a close-ended question. I asked my daughter an open-ended question. What was your favorite part about today? She had to think about it for a minute. Sometimes she's a turd and she'll say recess, right? But she said, hey, Jack was back in school. Oh, who's Jack? Well, he's this boy, and I noticed that she liked him, right? And so I'm not going to press that. But then I asked another question. How long has he been gone? He hasn't been back since after Christmas. What happened? Oh, his mom had COVID, and his dad didn't want him to come in because he wanted him to be safe. I said, was he a lot of fun today? Was he excited to see you? Yeah. Guys, I'm listening to the story. I'm trying to understand who Jack is. I'm legitimately concerned. I can appreciate where she's coming from. So I knew to touch it, but not touch it too much. She wanted to talk about Jack, but she didn't want to talk about how Jack liked him. Guys, it's all about, or how she liked Jack. It's all about just asking the questions and really paying attention, guys. Don't just wait for your turn to talk. Nobody cares how smart you are. Okay? Show them on the back end. Just listen to it. Also, another big one, guys, is kind of like I was saying during that situation, pay attention to body language. That's part of listening. You can listen with your eyes, guys. I noticed that she kind of shied up and, tried to like curl into a little ball when that happened. And I realized I'd touched a nerve. And, 7-year-olds are pretty easy to read, right? But I knew not to touch it anymore, or she was going to end that conversation real quick. Pay attention to that. That's part of it. And the last thing, guys, is reserve judgment. Reserve judgment. If she tells me that she's got a crush on that kid, the minute I tell her, you're not old enough to have a crush on a kid, if I go down that route, we're done talking. I've broken that rapport. Okay? If I want to learn more about him, that's what we do. We talk a little bit more. We start asking questions to help them. It's called the Socratic Method. Socrates used to, instead of just telling people the answer, he would ask them a series of questions to help them get to their own answer, so they understood it and they were able to figure it out in their own head. It's called Socratic dialect. That's what I do with my kids. I try to help them understand why we're going to do something as opposed to just telling them, because then I don't have to tell them twice. They just kind of get it at that point. It takes a little longer, but it's fine. But guys, don't reserve judgment. If there's something that really strikes you as odd, just ask for explanation on it. Can you tell me more? Why is that? Guys, same thing. It's weird to have somebody looking for a house, for a $300,000 house that was built in 1970 and never updated. That's weird. Why? And I told you, I already figured that out, guys, because I did a good job of establishing rapport. So reserve judgment, ask why instead. And the last one, guys, is during the rapport building, is speak truthfully. Sales is not about lying, bending the truth, white lies, telling people what they want to hear. That is not what sales is. Whenever you respond, you need to speak truthfully. And the next part about this is, it's okay to talk business. It's okay to talk money. You've got to be open and honest during this entire thing, because if not, establishing rapport is great. But if you don't get anywhere, you're just going to end up with 100 best friends and 0 sales. Okay? You want friends, and some of your people become good friends. I've got a client that I've sold fundraising stuff to, and I've sold houses to, and I still play golf with him all the time. He's a great guy. I love hanging out with him. But you got to speak truthfully. Be honest. Tell them what you know, what you don't know. Be honest about, like, hey, look, I can't show you houses until we get pre-approved, so let's knock that out real quick. Okay? And I'm real honest about the pre-approval process. I said, hey, look, I need you to call Robin. This is going to hurt a little bit, depending on my conversation. I usually say, it's kind of like it's kind of very invasive financial, like, rectal exam. Like, she's going to want to know everything. But in order to do this right, you need to tell her everything. It's like going to the doctor, guys. You can't just lie about, how many drinks do you have? Oh, I have my drink once a month. Guys, if you lie, you're not going to get anywhere. And I tell them that. You got to talk business, though, guys. If you have 1 hour to spend with a client, build rapport for 45 minutes, and then the last 15 minutes, get to brass tacks. It's okay to talk business. You're here to talk business. That's important. And speak truthfully, guys. If something doesn't strike you as right, tell them. I don't like the way, like we were talking before this recording started, about Joey that had this contract going on. And it turned out that it was a novated wholesale agreement that they had listed in the MLS. Joey's like, I don't really understand what's going on. And Joey asked me, and I was like, I don't really understand what's going on either. Like, I don't know novation very well. I got to be honest. But Jessica was on. She kind of understands a little bit better. So we got some information. We got to the brass tacks. And Joey, I know you're still here. My advice to you is go tell your client, say, hey, look, this is what's happening. I'm not real familiar with it, but I'm going to get that underlying contract, and here's how we're going to handle it. Until everybody feels good. So don't be scared to speak truthfully. If you don't know something, you don't know something. Last few things I'm going to tell you. I got a phone call right before this, and it's a good buddy of mine named Nick, and Nick lives in Memphis. He works for hotels. He's the sales director for Hyatt, or one of the sales directors, and they move him around the country. He spends about 2 years somewhere, and he gets all their sales up, and then he goes to the next hotel, and he's actually opening 3 new hotels in Memphis right now. So he was calling me, and he said, we're talking a little bit of this, but I was telling him what I was doing, and he goes, oh, that's easy. Take him to go get a drink. And I kind of laughed, because that's going to lead me to my next part, because there's a lot of truth to that. Now, I'm not telling you you need to go take people to go get a drink. But the joke about that, the reason why that is an effective strategy is because, guys, Nick, I mean, he works in bars. I mean, he works in a hotel. He's in the bar. He's in the restaurant. He's comfortable there. He's confident there. He feels good there. A lot of people like to go out and vino veritas, right? You have a couple of drinks and you're a little bit more confident. It creates you to ask questions. You want to know about people, right? You just kind of relax a little bit. And it was kind of funny to me because it's perfect. Find something shared. Oh my God, I love the Texans too, right? And you're excited about it. You have genuine enthusiasm. You have genuine empathy. Man, they had a crap season. I mean, you're genuinely connecting on a level. You appreciate them. You're listening to understand. You're speaking truthfully, right? That's what vino veritas means in wine truth. It's kind of funny. Now, that's not my recommendation. You have to be able to do this without any kind of substance, performance enhancing substances, right? But if you do, fine. It's okay, right? It was kind of funny. And this brings me to my last point before I let y'all go, because I do have to go buy a house in just a minute, is when it comes to initiating contact and establishing rapport, the analogy I've always used, it's kind of like trying to find a wife, picking up a woman. How do you pick up a woman? It's the funniest thing in the world. And when I was in college, guys would be so scared to go talk to another girl. And what's so funny is this is exactly how you do it. There's no trick to it. There's nothing shady. Guys, you got to prospect, right? That's number one. We're going to talk about this whole thing. So you're going to look, if she's got a wedding ring on her finger, that's not a good prospect, okay? Maybe barking up the wrong tree there for a minute. Get what I'm saying? You got to prospect. You got to go talk to them. You got to initiate contact. If I'm going through this rapport building thing, guys, if I'm using the college analogy, right? I'm using the college analogy. Confidence. I'm going to walk up. I'm going to be calm. I'm not going to be arrogant. I'm going to ask questions. Hey, don't you have biology with me? Aren't we in biology or something, right? I'm going to find something that we share. I'm going to ask open-ended questions. I'm going to get them talking so I can find something for me to talk about and share with it. Guys, you're going to appreciate what they're saying. You're going to try and understand where she's coming from. You're going to try and do all this stuff in here in order to be able to get that phone number. You've got to follow these steps, guys, because if you don't, you're not going to get it. And if you've ever been shot down at a bar before, guys, girls, I don't know how it works for y'all, sorry. But guys, if you've ever been shot down, I guarantee it's because you skipped one of these. It's because you were not doing one of these effectively. Because I'll tell you what, I'm not that good looking of a guy. And if you've seen my wife, whoo, you know I know how to do this, okay? You gotta be true, honest, genuine, and listen. I mean, that's the best way. And I broke it down as much as I can. Guys, does anybody have any questions on establishing rapport? Any examples of something you've done well or something that you've done poorly? Everybody's on mute, so if anybody's got anything to say, speak up. Joey, you're off mute. Do you have any questions?
No, I just felt bad you just sitting there with no one talking.
No, it's all right. That just means I'm an amazing teacher, which I say at the end of every one of these lessons. Either that or your minds are just blown and you're just sitting there and some kind of information overload.
Well, I wanted you to know that I was still engaged and I was listening to you.
No, I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, Joey, give me an example of a time that you have blown a rapport building opportunity.
Meaning screwed it up?
Yep.
Come on now, I don't screw up like that.
Here's a good one. How many times have you seen a political post on Facebook that just completely turned you off? Right? Everybody's had that.
Every day, 20 times a day.
Right? Regardless of what you believe about it, because I'm pretty sure you have a friend that sits on the other side of the aisle, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm pretty sure if you're a Republican, sorry guys, the reason why is for future viewings is we just had an election, right? We just went from Trump to Biden, okay? If you are a Trump supporter and you're just all hardcore Biden or all hardcore Trump and you're not good at listening to other people's viewpoint and you just post all this stuff, it's going to turn literally half the people you know off. Word. If you try to understand what somebody else is doing, that's why it's so dangerous to post things like that, in my opinion. It's just dangerous. I'm not saying don't have beliefs. I'm not saying don't be firm in those beliefs. But I'm just saying, Covey's 7 laws, seek first to understand, then to be understood, right? Seek first to understand. Why are you voting for that person? Why do you feel that way? What's going on, right? Some people just lash out and act very, very angry. And if you want to have a good practice at this, play the opposite side on a political or religious debate. See if you can keep that person calm. See if you can understand where they're coming from. And I'm not even saying you need to sway them. I'm not trying to say, hey, if you can get them to the other side, because you more than likely can't. But if you can listen to them, if you can understand where they're coming from and get to the basis of what they believe, it's really interesting. It's really an interesting practice. So engage your friends that see different viewpoints and try and understand where they're coming from, because that's the best practice in the world.
I guess
So,
I have a question. That's kind of,
yeah.
I guess I'll give you an example of where I actually struggle. I know this is going to sound trite, but I'm too nice. So I have the problem of getting people who aren't pre-qualified, who aren't even, there, and they don't understand how I try to take them from, curious about the home market to getting with a lender, right?
Mhm.
And I exhaust a lot of energy doing that. And I've even talked with one of the, the lenders that I put out there and recommend, of saying, hey, can you potentially bridge this gap? Because what happens is they'll talk to me, but then they struggle with getting to the lender, right? And so I
Right.
exhaust a lot of my time and my energy on those. And I don't have any, I'm struggling to get the people who are ready to go. And I just find that I'm on the phone with these people because they need someone to hold their hand. And it honestly, I'm fine with doing that. And that's just it. I'm a nice person. I want to help them. I want them to be happy. I want them to find the right home and everything else like that. But it does take a huge part of my day sometimes whenever I don't know
So
how to handle that.
I can, yeah, no, that's a great one, because that's what my wife has. My wife tells me all the time, I cannot be handsome. I can't do what you do. I can't do this. And the reason why is my wife's on her strength finder. If you've ever done that, it's basically a personality thing that she had an employer have her do one time. But her top strength was harmony. She wanted everybody to be happy. Okay. Now I'll say this. I don't know if she can hear me or not, but sometimes I feel like it's almost to her expense. And so she wants everybody to be happy. She'll bend over backwards. She'll break her neck to make sure nobody's mad, nobody's upset, nobody gets there, right? And kind of to your point, she's too nice, right? It doesn't mean you have to be just a complete asshole to get things done. Okay. Usually that's the fastest way to get things done, right? Do it or I'll murder you. Like, just hurry up, right? That's a very effective. I mean, it's a very efficient way, but not always effective, right? So the what I always tell her is you've got to get better at asking effective questions, because you don't want to have to say the hard statement, right? You want to be able to, because that's just either outside your personality. You don't want to ruffle any feathers. You don't want to do anything like that. But if you ask an effective question that can spur them with their own thought process versus yours. Okay, somebody's taking forever to getting qualified, right? Didn't you say your lease was up in a month? Oh yeah, we did. We're trying to get out of this apartment. Did you know it takes 30 to 45 days to close on a house right now? No, I didn't realize that. So just out of curiosity, I'm just curious, what would happen if we're not out by the end of February? What does that mean? That's an open-ended question, and it's going to get them all the way around the thought process going, man, I guess we're going to have to do a month-to-month lease, and that's going to go up by $1,400, and that's going to screw up our debt-to-income ratio. And I'm like, so what I need you to do is I need you to call this loan officer now, and we've got to get this problem fixed. Because again, Joey, if you've done a good enough job at the beginning of understanding their needs and understanding what's going on, and you're spending that much time with them, then you don't have a qualified person that is ready to go, which is fine, but they can't eat up your time. Or you need to find out how to ask qualifying questions. So I had this guy, I've done, I'm not trying to brag here, but I've done such a good job establishing rapport that he's not afraid to share personal information with me. He called me yesterday. He goes, hey, Colin, my dad had a stroke last week, and the whole family, we're out in Houston, we're taking care of this. We got to put all this on hold. I said, not a problem, man. You take care of your family. You call me when you're ready. He was, now all of a sudden he's off my radar. He's not the guy that I'm calling every day going, hey, do you want to see this house? Did you see this one? Let's go, right? I'm able to take the foot off the brake because we're in a good place with that. But my answer to you, if you feel like you're being too nice, this is going to be more towards I'm going to talk about this more in closing, but they don't have a sense of urgency, which is fine. But it's kind of your fault for giving them too much time if they don't have the sense of urgency. Or you need to ask them if they do have a pressing concern, you need to make sure that they realize that on their own by asking effective questions. And maybe they're like, hey, can I ask why you don't want to do all this? Well, she's asking for our bank statements and we really didn't do this, or she's asking for our tax returns and we haven't filed our tax returns yet. Whatever the situation is, appreciate it. Don't judge them. Oh my God, you haven't done your 2018 taxes? What's wrong with you? You're going to go to jail. You don't say crap like that. Now, I understand, man, taxes are kind of a bear. Do you normally do them yourself, or do you have somebody do them? Well, that's why, because I normally do them myself and this and that. Hey, there's a couple of accountants that, you know what I mean? I'm going to push them in that direction by asking them the questions, because we can't get this loan until your 18 taxes are filed, or whatever the situation is. Am I making sense, or am I just rambling?
No, you're making sense. I think for me, that's the problem, is I establish too good of rapport, almost to the point where we're like friends in a friend way. So they call me and it's not like a 10-minute phone conversation. Sometimes it eats up like almost an hour, because they're talking about XYZ in their life, and that's fine. It's fine. I struggle with, my time management aspect when it comes to the sales parts, like, because I'm so concerned of making sure that they are a happy customer. Sometimes, my report, I don't know. I'm just finding that seems to be a theme with quite a few of my clients right now, that they call me with life problems.
Joey, that is an incredibly introspective and thoughtful thing. Like, it's crazy that you're aware of where you're hurting. Couple of suggestions of things that I do. One, set expectations. If you know this person's a talker, okay? And if I'm driving down the road, like I have to drive to Seguin in a minute to go close on this house. If I got a 45-minute drive, I'm going to let them talk, right? I'm not doing anything else. Go ahead, okay? If I don't, I set that expectation. Hey, what's going on, Joey? I got like 5 minutes. I got to get into this meeting. What's going on?
Okay.
And I just set it up front. Okay, that's number one, right? Number two is you kind of mentioned, just like, well, I just don't want them to have that bad taste. I don't want to say something right. I don't want to, right? So if you set an expectation, they're not going to have a bad taste if you got to get off phone, right? Hey, I've got 5 minutes. Jerry Seinfeld's got a bit. Somebody could say, oh, Colin's in the shower. Nobody expects me to drop what I'm doing and get out of the shower to answer the phone, right? Have him call me when he gets out. It's the same thing if you set the expectation on the front end. Hey, shower water's running. I got to get in. What's up? I've got a meeting in 5 minutes. Hey, I've got 10 minutes. What's going on, right? And very seldom do people even ask what it is. Second thing is you're a little concerned because you have established a relationship. For lack of a better term, you kind of love on these people, right? It's like, I have a good relationship. I care about these people. I don't want to do this. Whenever I get to that place with somebody and I catch myself doing the same thing, I think about my children. I love my children. I'd take a bullet for my children. But I'm also going to tell you right now, I'm not letting you get away with murder. Okay? So yeah. There's that fine line as well. It's not that you're the parent per se, but you are in the driver's seat of this transaction. You are the professional. This is what we have to do to get to the end. I'm sorry, if you don't brush your teeth are going to fall out of your head. So you're brushing your teeth. Okay? So it's kind of that same thing, right? I mean, if you truly care about them, then you need to get this stuff done. If you truly want them to get the house, then they need to get it done.
Yeah.
I had a hard conversation with a lady the other day because she kept flip-flopping back and forth between the houses that she wanted to get. Husband got so frustrated, he's like, I don't even give a shit anymore. Pick whatever house you want. That's how frustrated the husband got. It's a dangerous place to be. We'll talk about that on closing later when it comes to things, but it's a very dangerous place to be. So what happened is the husband got frustrated. Her and I were standing out in the driveway talking, and she asked me a very specific question. She said, Colin, are you frustrated with me? I looked at her and I smiled. I said, I wouldn't say frustrated. And she's like, well, why are you smiling? I said, well, I think it's funny because I don't feel like you're very clear on what it is that you want. And you could see she just stopped for a second and kind of hit her. And I was like, well, we've been between a house with a pool and a house without a pool. And you can't, like, which one do you want? Like we just got to get clear on what it is that you want. And that was a very hard conversation to have because buying a house is an emotional thing. I mean, people see it as a 30-year commitment. It's really about a 7-year commitment, but I mean, it is a big deal, right? I mean, if you're a first-time home buyer with new kids, this is where I'm going to raise my family, right? If you ever worked with a pregnant lady, she's like, this is the house I'm going to bring my baby home to. It's a big decision, but you got to help them come to these conclusions. And the best way to do it is by asking questions. Like I made a statement. It was harsh. I don't think you're clear on what you want. What do you want? Do you want a pool or not? Do you want this or not, right? And your job is to help them get to where they want. You have every house in San Antonio at your disposal. It's like, that's fine. I'm not just going to sit here and drive you around to look at every single one of them. Let's dial it down some. So don't be afraid, is my point. If you've established good enough rapport, then you can get onto it. Oh, great example. When I first started teaching, the lady that I worked with, her name was Rochelle Molina, so she gets credit if she ever sees this one day. She told me, you got to be real careful with kids, because I was dealing with middle school kids. If you get on to them too much, just think of their emotions as a bank account. You can deposit all day long, but sometimes you need to pull some money out, right? Sometimes I need to get on. Sometimes I have to have a real conversation with this kid. Sometimes I have to do all this stuff, but you got to put it in and take it out. But you can't be afraid to take a withdrawal. Sometimes you need to. So there's that one.
That's
Anything else? It's the same thing with your own kids. The same thing with your husband, right? It's the same thing with everybody. It's like, you got to love on them. Sometimes you got to, whack them over the head with a stick. It's kind of, but you got to get to that safe place beforehand, which if you've married somebody, you've already established pretty good rapport, right? But sometimes things get real.
Okay.
So Kevin, do you have any comments on this? I'm curious, as your car selling, if I'm hitting the nail on the head.
Hitting the nail on right on the head, man. I've been through several different sales training when it comes to that type of stuff, and you're dropping dimes on these people. So anybody that's going to be listening to this, take it personal. And the biggest thing I have for it is just remember, we are the professionals, and as long as you have the confidence to be the professional, everything else is going to follow, in my opinion.
Absolutely. I know a lot of people watching
I like it a lot, man. This is probably the most thorough I've seen a sales training. I mean, so I like it.
I appreciate it. And like I said, like most of these people watching this are going to be brand new, guys. If you don't have the confidence to be the professional, borrow it. That's how I got started. Eric, dude, by the time when I came into this, wanted to do real estate, and I'm sure y'all, if you haven't heard the story, I should record it one day because it's kind of funny. I started working with Eric, and I bought one house when I met Eric, and it was the one I lived in. Okay, and I had no clue what went on. My lady, she's like, write a check. I was like, and it was my wife's godmother or something. She's like, write a check for this. I said, yep. Next thing you know, we had the house, right? It was great. But Eric, like I said, I borrowed Eric's confidence from that point on. I mean, Eric had bought thousands of houses by the time I met him. So when I went to go buy a property, an investment property, I'm going to take a look at this. I was confident as hell because I knew I had somebody in my corner that I could go show it to him. Eric, is this bad or good? Right? That's all I did for at least the first couple of them. Actually, the very first one, his old partner, Mike, gave it to me. He's like, this is a good deal. Go buy it. I just don't want to drive to Bandera. I was like, okay, I'll do it. Right? So borrow your confidence, guys. Just borrow it. It's all right. So that's all I got. I got to go buy a house. Get more tangerines to pick. It's the house with it. If you didn't see my social media, it's the one that has like this tangerine tree. It's got 8 billion tangerines in it. So kind of excited.
Those are
Anybody
good.
want one?
Yummy. If you have extras, let me know.
There's going to be plenty of extras. All right, guys, y'all have a great day. Go out, sell something.